Have you ever noticed how someone can know a religious text completely inside out,
Oh, yeah. Backwards and forwards.
right? Backwards and forwards. They never miss a service, or maybe they're even like deeply involved in leading a ministry of some kind, yet they can still be just impossibly arrogant or impatient or just plain harsh.
It's a really jarring disconnect.
Right.
And honestly, it happens way more often than we like to admit.
It really does.
Because we naturally expect that a high level of devotion, or at least a high level of participation in a belief system, should automatically translate into becoming just a fundamentally better person.
Yeah, we totally assume the input guarantees the output.
Exactly.
But then you step back and you look at the reality, and suddenly that assumption just sort of falls apart. We're looking at a landscape where visible spiritual activity frequently does not produce visible spiritual character.
Right. It's a huge gap.
And that uncomfortable gap is exactly what we are exploring today. We are taking a deep dive into a framework on character formation. Specifically, we're unpacking a source text titled 007 Character and the Fruit of the Spirit.
Which is a fascinating document.
It is. We want to figure out why our public resumes, I guess you could call them, rarely match our private realities.
Sure.
Okay, let's unpack this. The core thesis here is that true spiritual maturity isn't a checklist of things we do for God or for society.
No, not at all.
According to this text, it's what the Spirit organically produces within us when absolutely no one is watching.
And that distinction, it is incredibly vital right now. We really have to view this through the lens of our modern culture.
Right, because everything is so public.
Exactly. We live in an era of instant information, rapid platform building, these highly curated personas you see online. Influence can literally be gained overnight.
Just one viral moment.
One viral moment or some clever networking, and you have a platform. But because of that unprecedented speed, character has become an incredibly fragile foundation. When spiritual or moral influence outpaces internal maturity, the consequences are just disastrous. We see it constantly, right? With gifted, highly charismatic individuals who simply cannot sustain their integrity over the long haul.
The platform essentially crushes them.
It crushes them. So today we're looking at this ancient text not just to define, what spiritual character is, but to actually analyze the mechanisms of how it forms and why it's really the only thing that sustains true influence.
Right, because if we are just relying on the checklist like perfect attendance, vast theological knowledge, relentless volunteering, the text argues we are missing the entire point.
Completely missing it.
It completely shatters that whole activity over character mindset
Yeah.
by bringing in a very specific biblical framework, which is Galatians chapter 5, verses 22 and 23.
Right, the famous list.
Yeah, it lists out these 9 virtues. So we've got love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
A pretty intimidating list when you put it all together.
Very.
Yeah.
And the source points out that love, specifically, agape love, that sacrificial, self-giving commitment, is the absolute foundation. It's the root from which every single other virtue flows.
I think it's important to clarify what agape means in this context, too. Because modern culture, we tend to equate love with affection or, some kind of emotional resonance.
Like a feeling.
Right, a feeling. But agape is an act of the will. It's a commitment to the ultimate good of another person, entirely regardless of your emotional state.
Wow.
And that sets up a crucial grammatical detail in the original Greek text that Paul uses here. What's fascinating here is that he uses the singular word fruit, not the plural fruits.
Wait, singular.
Singular, yeah.
That is actually incredibly inconvenient.
It really is.
Because, think about it. If it is plural, I can excuse my bad temper by pointing to my generosity. I can say, sure, I yelled at my team today, but hey, look at the charity drive I just organized.
Oh.
I've got the fruit of goodness. I don't have the fruit of gentleness yet.
Oh, right, you treat it like a menu.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if it's singular, that whole house of cards fall.
It absolutely dismantles it. That singular noun means these are not 9 separate, disconnected virtues that you can just selectively cultivate, like you're building a custom avatar in a video game or something.
I'll take +5 patience and -2 joy.
Exactly. They form one unified portrait of a transformed character. It's an integrated reality. You cannot amputate one part of it without severely damaging the whole ecosystem of your character.
Let's test that, actually, because I think we naturally default to a sort of buffet mentality in our personal growth.
Oh, totally.
We walk down the line, we take a large helping of biblical knowledge, maybe a little bit of joy, but we completely pass on the patience because that's too hard.
Right.
So if this is truly a singular fruit, does that mean if you lack, say, self-control, your love and your peace might actually just be superficial fakes?
Yes. Honestly, that is the direct implication of the text. Because the virtues are integrated, a lack of self-control eventually undermines your ability to love anyone deeply.
Because it gets hard.
Right. If you cannot govern your impulses, your love will only really last as long as it's convenient or comfortable for you. The second it requires sacrifice, your lack of self-control will just cause you to abandon the commitment.
It's hard.
Or consider peace and gentleness. If your peace isn't accompanied by gentleness and courage, it might not be biblical peace at all. It might just be toxic conflict avoidance.
Oh, wow. So you aren't a peacemaker. You're just afraid of confrontation.
Exactly. You're just hiding. The singular nature of the fruit means that God's Spirit is forming a complete, coherent character.
Okay, so this is a singular integrated package, and I can't just, hack my way to it by checking off different moral boxes. What is the actual mechanism for growth?
That's the big question.
Because if I can't just manufacture it, how does it happen? The source material uses some pretty intense agricultural metaphors to explain this mechanism, specifically referencing John chapter 15, the imagery of the vine and the branches.
The agricultural metaphor is brilliant, really, because it completely reorients our modern expectations. Jesus says, I am the vine, you are the branches.
Right.
Think about the physics of a tree. A branch does not manufacture an apple through sheer effort or anxiety or willpower.
It doesn't stress out about making an apple.
No. It produces fruit simply by abiding, by staying connected to the vine. The lifeblood, the nutrients, the sap, it all flows from the vine into the branch, and the fruit is just the natural, inevitable byproduct of that connection.
But what does abiding actually mean practically? Because I've got to be honest, it sounds incredibly passive. It sounds like I just sit on my couch and wait for spiritual osmosis to happen.
It's really not passive at all. It's an active state of surrender and dependence. Abiding means consistently returning your mind, your trust, and your reliance back to God, rather than relying on your own cleverness or your own strength.
Okay, that makes sense.
And there's another element to this metaphor that strips away any illusion of this being a comfortable couch-sitting process. The necessity of pruning.
Right, the pruning.
The text explains that even healthy branches get pruned. God uses painful seasons like professional failures, deep disappointments, betrayals, or just periods of agonizing waiting to remove dead weight.
So it's not a punishment.
No, it's refinement. Pruning is the violent stripping away of our self-reliance to refine our character so we can bear more substantial fruit later.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because that distinction between human effort and organic growth is just everything. The text draws a very sharp contrast between what it calls the works of the flesh and the fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah, that contrast is key.
It's essentially the difference between a machine and a tree. You can force a machine to work, you turn it on, push the buttons, use sheer human discipline, and you get a predictable, immediate result.
Right.
But you cannot scream at an apple tree to make an apple appear faster.
Yeah.
You just can't do it. You have to cultivate the soil, ensure it's watered, and then you have to subject yourself to the one thing modern humans hate most.
Waiting.
Waiting. It drives us crazy.
It does, because we are completely obsessed with mechanical processes. We want instant, guaranteed return on investment.
If I put in X amount of work, I want Y amount of character immediately.
Exactly. But spiritual formation is an organic process. It requires hidden root growth that literally nobody on your social media feed is ever going to see.
Wow.
It requires enduring seasonal changes where nothing seems to be happening on the surface at all. The word works implies human effort driven by anxiety and self-interest. But fruit implies an organic outcome produced by a living source entirely outside yourself.
Okay, but if I'm supposed to abide organically, but I also have human impulses, those feel like contradictory realities because the text makes it very clear that we aren't just literal trees. We have free will.
We do.
It talks about this ongoing, honestly brutal internal war between the flesh, which is like our default self-preservation mode, and the spirit. And the weapon in that war is a concept that makes a lot of people just instantly cringe.
Oh, I know the word.
Yeah, it's the word obedience. How do I actively surrender without just relying on the same human willpower we just established? Doesn't actually produce real fruit.
It is the central paradox of the text. To resolve it, we really have to completely redefine the word obedience.
Because it has a bad rap.
It has a terrible rap. Modern culture harbors a deep, deep aversion to that word because we immediately associate it with restriction. We picture this rigid, authoritarian rule-keeping that just strips away our autonomy.
Like a boss micromanaging you.
Exactly. But the text redefines biblical obedience as entirely relational. It is not about a distant dictator issuing arbitrary rules to keep you miserable. It flows directly from trust and intimacy.
Okay.
Jesus said, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments." The obedience is the proof of the love, not the prerequisite for it.
It's like a healthy marriage or a deep, lifelong friendship. I do not serve my partner or listen to their needs because I am reading from some legally binding contract that says I have to.
Right, that would be a terrible marriage.
It would be. I do it because of the relationship. I trust them, I love them, and I genuinely want their good. The text points out that every single small choice you make, like choosing not to snap at your spouse when you were just exhausted from work,
Yeah.
or choosing to forgive a colleague who threw you under the bus in a meeting, choosing absolute integrity on a tax form when literally no one would ever know if you lied.
Yes.
Every one of those microscopic choices is a brick. You are building the hidden architecture of your soul.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, those tiny, seemingly insignificant moments of daily, quiet obedience are doing something profound at a psychological and spiritual level.
What are they doing?
They are actively starving the flesh. Every time you choose patience over an outburst, you are depriving your self-centered impulses of oxygen.
I love that imagery.
And simultaneously, you are feeding the spirit. This is how the organic growth intersects with our active choices. It's how your abstract theoretical theology is forged into concrete, recognizable character.
Right, because you do not think your way into patience.
No, you don't.
You don't read enough books to become kind. You obey your way into it, one frustrating, friction-filled interaction at a time.
That's perfectly said.
So if relational obedience is the mechanism, it makes total sense that the testing ground is also relational. You can't do this in a vacuum.
No, you really can't.
The text goes hard after what it calls the myth of the solo spiritual journey. Modern culture absolutely celebrates individualism. We love the myth of the self-made person, or the private spiritual seeker who finds enlightenment alone in the woods.
Oh, it's very romanticized.
But scriptural transformation requires the exact opposite ecosystem. It requires community, mentorship, and deep accountability.
It is a non-negotiable requirement in this framework. The text cites relational dynamics like Moses and Joshua, or Paul and Timothy. These weren't just transfers of data from a teacher to a
It
student.
wasn't just a lecture.
Right. These mentors provided an external mirror. You can memorize the dictionary definition of gentleness all day long, but gentleness is only formed when you are placed in a high-stakes relationship with someone who is being actively difficult, and you are forced to regulate your response.
So true.
People are the resistance training for your character.
You literally have to be around intensely annoying people to learn patience. There is no shortcut.
Unfortunately, no.
But it's more than just dealing with annoying people, right? It's about who you let into your inner circle, because our brains are incredibly skilled at justifying our own bad behavior. We can spin any selfish act into a story where we are the victim or the hero.
That is the psychology of self-deception in a nutshell. And it is exactly why the text highlights the intense dangers of isolation. When we try to grow privately, our blind spots remain completely hidden.
Because nobody's there to point them out.
Exactly. Unaddressed pride takes root because no one is challenging our narrative. We develop a fear of correction. We start to believe our own press, essentially. The text quotes a really striking proverb: "Faithful are the wounds of a friend."
Wounds of a friend.
Yeah. True accountability means explicitly inviting someone to lovingly wound your ego for the sake of saving your character. And when that correction inevitably comes, the mark of maturity isn't defensiveness. It isn't explaining away your actions. It's humility.
I want to pause on that for a second, because for you listening, that is intensely confronting. Who actually has permission to speak honestly into your life, like genuinely?
It's a rare thing.
Think about the dynamics of modern professional or religious life. As you get older, or as you gain more authority at work or in the ministry, it becomes incredibly easy to just surround yourself with hype men.
Yes. Yes, men everywhere.
People who depend on your paycheck or your approval. They are not going to tell you when you're being arrogant. Who can look at you and say, "Hey, you were incredibly harsh in that meeting," or "I've noticed you're acting out of pure ego lately," and you won't immediately bite their head off or just mentally write them off as a hater.
Right.
The text argues that without giving someone that explicit, unassailable permission, we are guaranteed to deceive ourselves. We will convince ourselves we are growing when we are actually just getting much better at hiding our flaws.
And because self-deception is our default setting, we need actionable frameworks to break the illusion, because good intentions, they just evaporate under pressure.
Always.
That brings us to the practical application outlined in the source. How do we move this from a conceptual, theological discussion into our actual daily routines? The text offers an exercise it calls the Patience Project.
I found this fascinating because it moves spiritual growth out of the clouds and brings it right down into the dirt of daily life. The idea is that you don't just vaguely ask God to make you a better person. You focus on just one specific, let's use patience, for an entire week.
Okay, I like that.
You start your day by praying specifically for the empowerment to be patient, but then you identify your specific triggers.
Getting specific is key.
Is it the morning commute when people merge without signaling? Is it trying to get your toddler's shoes on when you are already running 10 minutes late? Is it a specific coworker who always derails your focus? You explicitly name the triggers, and then you actively track your successes and your failures every single day.
What that tracking does is it forces cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
When you log your reactions every evening, you move character out of the realm of the mystical and into the realm of the observable.
You can't hide from the data.
You can't. You can no longer tell yourself you are a fundamentally patient person who just happened to have a rare bad day. Looking at the data, you realize, oh, I am an impatient person who desperately needs transformation.
It's humbling.
Very. And this level of rigorous self-assessment is critical, especially when we talk about leadership. The text makes a profound pivot here. It says true leadership isn't about charisma or vision casting or stage presence. Leadership is character under pressure.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Whether you are leading a corporate boardroom, managing a team of volunteers at a nonprofit, or just trying to raise a family, your character is your true legacy.
Absolutely.
The text gives a pretty stark warning. Without the integrated fruit of the Spirit, influence turns into a weapon. It turns into exploitation or abuse. Charisma can easily get you a massive platform, but only character can sustain that platform without crushing the people standing on it with you.
And the beautiful counterbalance to that grim warning is the promise of what happens when authentic character is actually present.
Which is what?
Transformation naturally leads to reproduction. When the people around you see authentic joy that isn't dependent on the quarterly earnings report, when they see profound peace in the middle of a massive crisis, when they see genuine self-control when you have every right to be furious, it provides undeniable credibility to your beliefs. You don't have to aggressively argue anyone into your worldview. Your character draws them in. Your life becomes the irrefutable evidence of the text.
It's the ultimate proof of concept.
It is.
Let's briefly recap the journey we've taken through this framework today. We started by defining the problem. Spiritual maturity has to be measured by visible internal character, not just busy external religious activity.
Right.
We look at how this character is a singular organic fruit, a complete ecosystem where you cannot just pick and choose the virtues you prefer. It grows not by sheer human willpower, but by abiding, staying connected to the source.
Yeah, that organic connection.
And we saw that cultivating this fruit requires relational obedience, the willingness to be wounded by the accountability of a community, and the brutal discipline of daily, honest self-assessment.
It's a slow, deeply unglamorous process of daily choices that, frankly, no one celebrates. But it is the only path to a life of substance.
Absolutely.
And there is one final angle to consider that we haven't touched on yet regarding the modern environment we're trying to grow in. Consider the concept of plastic fruit.
Plastic fruit.
Yeah. In our current digital age, we can manufacture the appearance of almost anything. We can use AI to write deeply empathetic-sounding emails to our teams. We can curate a social media feed that projects perfect peace, joy, and relational harmony.
To fake it all.
We can simulate the output of character with algorithms and clever PR. But plastic fruit, no matter how shiny and realistic it looks on the display shelf, has absolutely no nutritional value.
No.
When the people in your life, your kids, your employees, your closest friends actually come to you for sustenance during a real agonizing crisis, what happens? They bite into plastic. The one thing our hyper-accelerated world cannot fake and cannot speed up is the slow, organic, painful growth of true character. If your character is truly like a tree, consider the people in your life who are currently sitting under your shade. Based on your hidden internal choices this past week, what kind of fruit is dropping into their laps? Is it nourishing them, or is it bruised by pride and impatience?
Wow, that is the exact image to leave you with today. Are you cultivating a life that provides real nourishment, or are you just polishing plastic fruit for the display window? Take some time to evaluate the ecosystem of your own character this week. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep inviting the pruning, lean into the friction of real relationships, and don't give up on the slow work of growing the real thing. Until next time.